Darami, I say, whenever I leave the house, and on whatever thing my eyes fall on,
وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما
Allah Ta'ala says, Wallahu yuhibbu as-sabirin. Allah Ta'ala is liefde aan diegene.
School governing body of South Coast Madrasa.
وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا.
Thank you very much and good evening. Program Director, MEC for Transport, Honorable Ishmael Vadi, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the Arab Country Community of South Africa, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Please receive our heartfelt gratitude for inviting us to address this second edition of Social Cohesion Dialogue on the topic of radical economic transformation and social transformation. Allow me to relay warm greetings from Minister of Public Enterprises, Honorable Lynette Brown, who could not be here with us today. The dialogue comes at an opportune time. Since the last elections, different interests have emerged, all positioned towards ownership of the very idea of radical economic and social transformation. In this political and public discourse, there has been emphasis on treating economic transformation outside of social transformation. In different forms and in different platforms, we have been observing the drive of locating radical economic transformation to mean the exclusion of certain sectors of the economy. Whilst we argue that its focus is not only on the land question, we also believe that merely taking from the rich to give to the poor is not the complete solution. But that as we proceed with our quest to radicalize the economy, it is important that social factors be afforded equal attention. We therefore welcome the phrasing of the dialogue to show that economic transformation is inextricably intertwined with social transformation. The patterns of ownership in South Africa remain a worrying factor. The World Development Index rated South Africa at number 2 of the countries with most inequality. Of course, confronting this is set to present the state with a whole range of social contradictions which we have to contend with. We are concerned that income disparities are to a fact that 50% of the world's wealth is in the hands of 1% of the world's population. This scenario perfectly plays itself in the South African socio-economic sphere. We need to be seen to be responding to this. Program Director, this is the 60th year of the Freedom Charter. It is important that while grappling with the subject of radical economic and social transformation, that we go back to this seminal document. Those multitude of our people that gathered in Kliptown, representative of all sectors of our society, uttered what must remain the most seminal expression of the future that our country must be. They envisioned that our country will never be prosperous or free until our people live in brotherhood, enjoying equal rights and opportunities, and that the national wealth of our country, the heritage of South Africans, shall be restored to the people. Program Director, the fifth administration, through the President, has sought to respond to the call as articulated in the Freedom Charter, while cognizant of the effect of the 2008 global economic meltdown that in itself warranted that we begin to do things differently. In tasking the incoming administration, President Zuma addressed these objectives as follows, and I quote, "As we enter the second phase of our transition from apartheid to a national democratic society, we have to embark on a radical socio-economic transformation to push back the triple challenges of inequality, poverty, and unemployment. Change will not come about without some far-reaching interventions. The economy must take the center stage in this program," close quote. Which are these areas which we should focus on to redirect our economy? There are 6 components that inform the focus of radical economic transformation, and these are infrastructure, industrialization, investment, innovation, inclusion, and integration. The investment in infrastructure currently stands at 1.1 trillion rands. This is in realization of the importance infrastructure plays in the sustenance and improvement of our economy. Moving with speed, it is expected that through the National Infrastructure Plan as adopted in 2012, we are able to create jobs for more people. South Africa has invited countries of the world to invest in the country's infrastructure, particularly those from BRICS. Critically important at home is the role expected from the private sector. Clearly, the state cannot go it alone without any private sector confidence and participation. We need to be partners with the private sector in dealing with the above-mentioned challenges. The response by the private sector, to a certain extent, will assist in determining the speed through which we are able to radicalize the economy. The formation of the Department of Small Business is critical to both the state and the private sector. The growth of small businesses means more people will be absorbed in the economic activity of the country. Through this absorption, we will be creating a pool of industrialists, particularly from the previously disadvantaged communities, as we address the causes of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. The accompanying threat in this regard will be the absence of the link between successful industrialists and the poor. This may come in many forms, such as tax evasion and non-compliance with the standing prescripts. Examples of these are visible when regard is given to the mining companies not complying with the mining charter. We cannot expect the masses to remain patient while they observe the glaring growth of the rich in front of them. Our people are saying that political freedom has been achieved. It is now time for the democratic non-racial government to deliver on economic freedom by delivering them from the poverty, inequalities, and joblessness that colonialism and apartheid have bequeathed. They are visible in the agricultural sector when workers are paid with alcohol, which amounts to abuse. Moving with speed is not only the responsibility of the state, but all parties standing to benefit. The critical sectors of the economy, such as energy, mining, and manufacturing, must be positioned in such a way that ensures that these are sustained. The state, through legislation and other programs, will be expected to support these sectors. On the other hand, these sectors will be expected to ensure their sustainability whilst creating employment. It cannot be overemphasized that there is a need to move with speed in implementing the well-articulated plans of the democratic state. The conceptualization of the Industrial Policy Action Plan by the Department of Trade and Industries was formed by this very realization. The emphasis on local content and incentives related thereto are meant to eventually lead to an increase in our local manufacturing base. Informed by the National Industrialization Policy Framework, we aim, amongst others, to realize a vision of a broader-based industrialization path characterized by greater levels of participation of historically disadvantaged people and marginalized regions in the mainstream of the industrial economy. We submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that unless the next wave of economic growth in our country and in the rest of the world is informed by addressing the socio-economic conditions of the other 99%, we are all risking for trouble. The intervention in changing the structure of the economy and ensuring increased efficiency is supported by the resolution of the 53rd Congress of the African National Congress held in December 2012, which resolved that, and I quote, "We intend to transform the structure of the economy through industrialization, broad-based black economic empowerment, addressing the basic needs of our people, including women and youth, strengthening and expanding the role of the state and the role of the state-owned enterprises," close quote. The above statements are called to all of us to ensure that the lives of our people are fundamentally transformed for the sake of our country. It is our humble view that radical economic and social transformation are two sides of the same coin, and that in changing the material conditions of our people, we cannot neglect their social, intellectual, spiritual, and well-being. Colonialism and apartheid had sought to dehumanize our people by ensuring their daily existence is a struggle for survival. It is sought to direct that the pursuit of self-actualization is deprioritized. And therefore, what we need is to ensure that we restore the national wealth of our country to the people and restore their dignity. The economic policies of the African National Congress have understood that economic development has to address the social challenges of our country. Furthermore, that social development will require economic growth to ensure that the state's interventions are sustainable. The economic blueprint of the first democratic government, the Reconstruction and Development Program, recognized that growth, development, reconstruction, redistribution, and reconciliation must be linked to a unified program. This has run through all the economic programs of the various administrations of the African National Congress. This, in our view, is the ultimate expression of radical and social transformation.
صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه.
Program Director, in articulating our department's program and performance expectations to the state-owned companies in our portfolio, we have listened attentively to the wisdom of our elders, one of which is the Honorable Minister of Trade and Industries, Professor Rob Davis, who said the following during the State of the Nation debate on the 18th of June 2014, and I quote, "Radical economic transformation in South Africa must mean radical transformation on a number of levels. One, it must mean radical transformation of the productive structure of the economy. Two, it must mean radical transformation of the production relations. Three, less conflictual, characterized by more equitable benefit sharing by local companies. Four, it must place job creation at the heart of work programs and promoting a more inclusive job-rich patterns of growth," close quote. This was in response to the President's call that the Radical Economic Transformation Program will be taken further with the implementation of the Industrial Action Plan. The Minister of Public Enterprises, in the same budget vote in 2014, went further and said, "The state-owned companies must continue to serve as effective strategic instruments of industrial policy and economic transformation. Therefore, in articulating the role the state-owned enterprises will play in lightening the load carried by our people, we have ensured that similar emphasis is placed on delivery of socio-economic objectives, as it is put on the financial objectives of the performance contract concluded with the boards of state-owned enterprises. An example of the above is the 50 billion rand worth of Transnet project for the manufacturing of 1,064 locomotives. Part of the deal with the 4 biggest foreign manufacturers is that, except for the first 70, the majority of the locomotives must be manufactured in South Africa. This is meant to ensure that the local capacity is developed through skills transfer. CSR, CNR, Bombardier, and General Electric have between them 9 local companies benefiting from this transaction. Transnet, with all the expertise acquired, will come out of this with the capacity to be the original equipment manufacturer. Critical in this amount of job would have been created by both Transnet and local companies active in the sector. Just today, ladies and gentlemen, President Zuma unveiled 85 locomotives which were built locally. In conclusion, the Freedom Charter states that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. Close quote. You have made a choice to live in this country. As compatriots, you have chosen to be agents of the change envisioned by those that gathered in Kliptown on the 25th and the 26th of June 1955. Together, we need to realize the growth of the economy in our lifetime. Together, we can speed the process that informs radical economic and social transformation. Shukran. Thank you very much for your attention.
Assalamu alaikum. Let me start off by teasing Abdussalam Habibullah. You know, he was preparing for today's program, and he had this long list of dignitaries that he has to, all their names and their titles. So he was learning them off by heart. His Excellency this, Deputy Minister this, Premier this, all the names. And then somebody met him and said, but look, why are you doing all of these things? In South Africa, we have a very simple approach. All you have to say is, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. So he says, now that's very easy. So he started memorizing it last night, like all protocols observed, all protocols observed, all protocols observed. But then when he came this now in the evening now, and then he got stage fright. And he said, good evening, wa assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, and then he forgot the word. So he says, all pretty girls observed. So today we observe all the pretty girls and all the protocols. It's a great pleasure for me to bring greetings from our Premier David Makuva. As has been explained, he's unable to attend because of the practical arrangements that they are involved in for the funeral of late Minister Colin Shabani. But he does send his very, very sincere greetings to the organizers and to all the guests who have come. He would really have loved to come to this particular event. On the eve, just after the first attacks that took place in Soweto, he made a spontaneous effort to reach out to the communities, particularly in the Mayfair and surrounding areas. He came there immediately after that on the Saturday, and the organization that is hosting this event, together with a number of others, were kind enough to be present with him, where he addressed a number of people, of foreign nationals. So he deeply regrets that he can't be present with us. I think we also must applaud the mayor of city of Johannesburg, Mayor Parks Down. Two things that are important for this conference. One is really his attempt to forge partnerships with other cities. And the fact that the city of Johannesburg has chosen Ramallah is an indication of where the loyalties lie, where the heart is. The head will tell you maybe go to another city, London or something of that sort, but the heart will tell you go somewhere else. And I think it was great that we had the mayor at least gracing this occasion. But then our loss is that the mayor of Johannesburg could not be here because he really wanted to be here, but he has to play host to the mayor that was here with us early on. So if we didn't get Mayor Parkstow, we've got Mayor Musa Hadid. It was a great privilege to have him here. But there's another reason why Johannesburg is important. A good number of years ago already, as it was grappling with the problems of the inner city and what we know as Hillbrow, and the melting pot that Hillbrow had become, with large numbers of foreign nationals coming in there, and all the problems that might have been associated with that. The city of Johannesburg was one of the first cities to take the initiative to establish a migration desk, a specific dedicated structure within the city's administration to begin to look at this issue of migration. And I think over the last 5 or 6 years, that structure has really evolved. They've come up with some very, very attractive ideas, practical things that the city is doing. So it's an important development, and it's a great pity that Mayor Parkstow is not with us, because I think he would have shared with us some very useful insights about how a government or an administration can begin to be proactive rather than being reactive in trying to deal with problems of migration. Joburg has had, I think, there are many landmarks in the history of Johannesburg, but there are 2 or 3 things that stand out for us. One, of course, is the discovery of gold and diamonds, of gold. Before that, the city was really an agricultural farmland type of thing, with very few people there. But what the discovery of gold in the late 19th century did is that it had a huge impact on the future development of the city of Johannesburg. And within a period of 20 or 25 years, say in a quarter century, it became a melting pot. People who were hunting into speculative mining, fortune seekers, all sorts of people from many different parts of the colonizing world. Germans, British, French, the whole Bangalore started flooding to South Africa, to the city of Johannesburg, as part of trying to make a fortune here, a quick fortune in this city. And within that short sort of quarter century, the demographics, the profile of the city had changed fundamentally, its economic basis had changed, and it suddenly became a capitalist, an emerging or burgeoning capitalist economy, creating its own problems. Now that impacted in a particular way on African people or indigenous people who were here. But I think in the 30 or 40 years after that period, after let's say in the early 20th century, through various stresses and strains, the city had opened its arms to all sorts of people, and it has become the melting pot that we understood it to be then. But then came 1948, the accession to power of the National Party. And what the National Party did is what natural process, what the economic development had done, is brought people together. So we had Sophia Town, completely mixed, transformed. What the National Party did, it had started to break asunder what was a real organic process of social cohesion, and started putting people into different racial communities and in different racial ghettos. So instead of having deepened social cohesion or greater social cohesion, what happened is that we actually had disintegration or separation of our societies. And for the period of 30 or 40 or 50 years, I grew up in Lens, it was an Indian area. Somebody else grew up somewhere else, it was an African area. Somebody else grew up in El Dorado Park, it was a colored area. And then whites in a different area. So we in fact, our generation and those that came before us never really experienced the living in a socially cohesive society. We didn't experience that.
صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه.
Then came 1994, and we've had a third wave of development. So as we were starting to become non-racial or desegregate and readjust this society, we had another development taking place, and there's a large inflow of people into the city. Now, this process of in-migration is not peculiar to Johannesburg. It's a global phenomenon. All cities, all modern cities, there are large numbers of people coming in. But in Johannesburg and Gauteng in particular, because the centrality of Gauteng within the broader economy in South Africa, Southern Africa, and on the African continent, we had two distinct trends emerging. One is people from other provinces in South Africa starting to move into Gauteng. So today, a significant percentage of those who are living in Gauteng are actually not born in Gauteng. They're born in South Africa, but they're not born in Gauteng per se. They come in from neighboring provinces, particularly Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Eastern Cape, KZN, etc. But we've had another trend, is people from other parts of the world starting to come in, particularly people from societies in distress, societies in conflict, and in also societies where we commonly say that these states are failing or failed states. Now, that in migration, 67% of all people who are coming into Gauteng are actually from the SADC countries. So they're actually from our neighboring societies. And there isn't significant destabilization in Southern Africa. We've had a bad spell in Zimbabwe. We have a bit of turbulence in Swaziland at the moment, or Lesotho. But in the main, they come from Southern African countries. And this is nothing unusual. We've had migrant labor system with the mining industry in this province, or in the old Transvaal, where large numbers of people from Lesotho, Mozambique, etc., were working on our mines. They got families here, they lived here for generations. So it's not something that is unusual. But then we've also had people coming from the North African and the Middle Eastern states, from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, from China particularly, from Latin America, as those societies started changing after the collapse of the Soviet Union. So you have a massive influx of people, and lo and behold, they tend to come to Gauteng and Johannesburg in the main. Now, we are confronted with two challenges now. We have to integrate on a non-racial basis in a post-apartheid society. We haven't actually come to terms with it. We haven't. As much as some of us and organizations, I know the organizations that are represented, have done some sterling work in African communities or neighboring communities, trying to reach out, development projects, charitable work, relief work, etc. Fantastic work has been done. But as a society, as a South African nation, have we really and truly become a non-racial, socially cohesive, and an inclusive society? Has every one of our townships or suburbs transformed? The reality is no. They haven't. So you have some people moving into Sandton or Houghton from black communities, Indian, colored, and African. And of course, in Lens, for example, we have some people moving into Thembelihle informal settlement, and then those who are slightly better off might have bought homes in Extension 9 or Extension 10 of Lenasia as a micro-study. But have we become cohesive? We haven't. We're grappling with that question. Now, embedded on that is this influx or in-migration of people from other parts of the world, particularly the African continent. And we haven't dealt with it either. Now, these are difficult and complex processes to deal with. As we were grappling, I think government policy is very, very clear. We want to work on the principle of social cohesion, of inclusivity, of integration, of absorbing, of working with people, embracing them, and embracing the diversity, the cultural diversity, the national identities of people, and making it part of the broader melting pot that South Africa should become. Very much along the lines, as the Minister said, that the Freedom Charter says this country belongs to all who live in it. It doesn't say it belongs to South Africans only. It doesn't say it belongs to Africans only. It belongs to all those who live in it. And that will mean people who are historically... It has sent a signal or a message that really this government is not prepared to protect foreigners. That's the image. And 2 weeks ago, there was a seminar at Wits University where the Nigerian Consul General really lashed out at South Africa. It was an academic platform, but he really attacked this government very, very severely. Now, I can tell you, in my sleep, I can tell you what's government policy. Our policy is to defend one and all, irrespective of the country of origin. But we are not succeeding on the global platform now to convince some of our neighboring states, our friends in Africa. We play a major role in conflict resolution and peacekeeping in this continent, whether it is Burundi, Rwanda, Sudan, number of countries. We're playing a very important role, sometimes overt and public, sometimes behind the scenes. We play a very critical role. But I think the credentials of this government are in question as a result of these incidents. Now, what do we do? Of course, there's a challenge on government, but there's also a challenge in civil society and all our communities, all our people. We have to begin to reaffirm a very basic and fundamental principle, that those who come to our country must be able to live and work here in peace and must enjoy the protection of the state. There are South Africans in other parts of the world. There are South Africans on the African continent working there at the moment. Just go. I can tell you MTN, for example, is active in, I think, in 17 African countries. They don't just put out these big telephone masts. There are South Africans working there, doing the technological work there. You go to any other African country. Malawi, I was there in December, January this year. You'll find South African stores there, Pep stores, game, all sorts of stores there. They are living and working there, earning profiting from the economic opportunities in that country. You can't have a situation where we just attack people willfully with no defense line. So I think this conference is timely. I hope that we will have some serious engagement. I think we might not discuss everything here tonight, but we are at a point where we have to really look very carefully at what we are doing in this country and what more we should be doing. Because if we fail, if you have these ruptures, and if these are coupled with this, what we loosely call service delivery protests that are becoming more and more violent and more destructive, then the entire social cohesion project will fall flat. And I think that's the challenge that we must deal with. So congratulations to the organizers of this event. I think the Deputy Minister has indicated from an economic point, you see, social cohesion can't work if it hasn't got an economic base. Unless people are economically uplifted, we are not going to deal with the root causes of this problem. So we've got huge challenges in front of us, and I'm hoping that we'll give some reflection and thought to these things, and then really reposition some of our organizations to play a more proactive role. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are very pleased to have you all present in this gathering. We have a variety of different organizations, including governments, embassies, SAPS, NGOs, and leaders of communities, in particular migrants. Allowing me to acknowledge the following. First, Mr. Ashraf Galda, as a master of ceremony. Thank you very much for coming to this gathering. Actually, also allow me to thank the speakers. We start with Moulana Bam from Jamiat al-Ulama, Honorable Moussa Haddad, Mayor of Ramallah, Honorable MEC Ismail Valdi, Honorable Ashraf Mhanni, Head of Mission and Representative of Arab Dean of Ambassadors, Honorable Pulolani Mugwanishi, Deputy Minister of Public Enterprise, Mr. Zain Al-Abidin from Awqaf, and Mr. Abbas Mkinzi from DBDSA. Also, allow me to acknowledge the sponsorship of this gathering, and they are the City of Johannesburg, Awqaf, and Sanzaf. Also, allowing me to thank the organizing committee, the people that are working very hard, but they are behind the scenes. I am going to present them one by one, and they deserve an applause. The first one is, of course, Ahmed Habiballah, which he don't need to stand up, yes. Tuhami Mokrani, it's myself. Usama Al-Khadub.
صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, Chairman of the South African Pakistani Association, also the Chairman of United Muslim Nation Organization. Well, I think it was very timely, very important and a good initiative. But of course, going to the gist of the matter is what is really the problem is it really a xenophobic attack? It is really a hatred against the foreigners, which I don't think so. That is really the root cause. The problem lies into a very simple thing. One is your high rate of unemployment. Secondly, of course, unemployment breeds the poverty, and poverty is the one who give a birth to the resentment and desperation. And what's happening in today's attacks in township is not to do with these three factors. And if we're not going to actually tackle these factors, we're going to have a continuation of these problems, which you can label it under the xenophobic attack. But I think the government has to put really emphasis on one thing to solve the problem of unemployment and how they're going to do it. And also the distribution of the wealth has to be into the township as well. And they have to create the opportunities for the poor people to get the jobs. It's no longer the case that you just keep building the big town houses around like a deep slough. There is no space has been left to build any agro-processing or I would say the office blocks where the people can be employed. So I think these are the core areas that one need to look into there. The people going to the township is not the matter of their first choice, because they don't have any other option left. They don't have the economical mean and how to go to the bigger malls or into the traditional area like Forsberg and Mayfair, because the goodwill values for the shops are gone up. It's too much over traded in, and that's the reason the people are finding the gaps into the marketplace, and they think the townships offer them a very unique opportunity, a low starting capital, and also there is a lot of unexplored areas where the people are not going, and also what they offer like early morning to the late night opening of the shops, that is a necessity into the shop, and they're exploiting onto that. But it comes with a danger, it comes with a risk, and one is prepared to take the risk. But the first most important question we need to ask is why so many Pakistanis and Bangladeshis are here, why so many Somalis are here. They are here because this is the matter of choice. They are here because of the political persecutions. They have a high unemployment rate, and things was good at their end, they will not be here into this country. It's a very important question, because I believe personally there are a lot of intercultural marriages are happening in the township. I've seen so many Pakistanis and Bangladeshis have married to the local girls, and they have black African girls, and they have now the intercultural marriages, and especially Somalis and the Ethiopians and Sudanese are at the forefront. They definitely have been marrying, they are more, I would say, the open to get married into the society than to the Bangladeshi and Pakistani. But these things are happening, the cross-culture marriages are happening. And of course, the first part of their integration was when they arrived to South Africa, was into their own Muslim societies like, the Lodium and Forsberg and Roshni. So the people who live there, they have been very well received, and they have been blessed with the Muslim community warmth. So they are the part and parcel of the society. But when they're going to, especially the economical immigrant, those are making their way into the townships. Those are confronted with the huge challenges. But things are happening. And hope and I pray that this integration will continue to be taking place. the larger Muslim community is, I think the small body have said that we need to re-examine and relook into the very core matter, how we can socially integrate the incoming foreigners into the country. And as he said, refer to the charter. Also the mayor representative referred to the charter, Freedom Charter of 1955, that the South Africa is for all the people who live in it. It's not only for South African. The people, the freedom and the freedom and the security must be provided to the people who live into the South Africa. And that's what I'm taking away. And hopefully that our the government as well as the NGOs will take the note of it and keep working on the issues, which is, again, I would say again and say it again and again, that the government have really need to look into how they can reduce the unemployment, the poverty, inequality, and the redistribution of the wealth into the township. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Abdul Karim Al-Goni, Deputy President of the Union of the Arab Communities, but at the same time a Sudanese South African. And we have been organizing this conference because we are seeing the problem that we are facing and we will be facing in the future. So we wanted to be proactive and work with government and with our members to make things happen. You see, as you know, our biggest member is the Somali community, and they are the ones who are mainly affected by what is happening, although other communities are also affected, and we are trying to see how can we reduce the loss, prevent it, get them some compensation, and make the government understand that this is a real problem. It's not only homophobia, it is also criminal, and it is also socially and economically related. So we need to tackle it in a 3D dimension. You see, to be very frank with you, the government was trying its best not to call it xenophobic attacks. They were trying to push it on the criminality side, and accordingly they have apprehended some of those people, brought back some of the properties that was lost. So the government responded in a way, although it's not enough. We expected more than that. This is very difficult. I'm telling you, this is very difficult. We know it is not an overnight thing, but we are working on a process of it. Actually, this conference, the after conference is more important than the conference, because we have agreed with the Premier of Gauteng, we have agreed with the Mayor of Johannesburg, and we wanted to go and see Coronelli and the others, to agree with them on an ongoing program every month, so that the local communities should understand us and know that looting our shops, harming us is not going to create jobs for them. Actually, it will reduce jobs. It will be more detrimental to them. But we needed interactions within the community with the acceptance of government and with the acceptance of the local NGOs. So we are creating a relationship between us, the local NGOs, and government, and we hope it will work with time, but not immediate. You see, it is happening in a very small scale. Actually, this is one of the problems. One of our problems is that we are lone hunters. We don't hunt in a pack. And this is what we are hoping to do now. Now there is an association for all of them. When we work, we will work together. If there are 20 of them doing small things here and there, we will make it big, and we will make it under the banner of the bigger group. And this is where we are going. This is where we are. Actually, we have a weakness. We will work on it among ourselves. There is a weakness between us and our counterparts. We will need to work on it at the same time. And we need to be more visible. I'm telling you, we are doing a lot of philanthropic work, but we are doing it under the table. Because we are Muslims, we won't say we are doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't want people to see it. But even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us, we need to show it, especially in a situation like this, where people see us as just parasites leaking from them. They need to see how much millions we are investing in the local economy. We are giving to local schools. We are giving to the poor in those communities. And this is part of the work we wanted to do. We wanted to use the media very cleverly in the coming year until the third Cohesion conference. I can say I am less than 50% hopeful, because the factors are too many, and we will be handling one or two. But you see, we always think about it this way. Instead of cursing the darkness, we need to light one candle. And this is the candle that we are lighting. And we hope that this candle will bring in more candles, and with time, there will be light for everyone. But it is not, I'm not very hopeful in this coming year. But the situation is so severe that we believe that government will take it seriously. You see, the problem is government is not taking it seriously. And the politicians are doing it from their own perspective. How can we gain from it? And that is not our game. Our game is how can we really create cohesion? Because you see, if you look at it, the Somalis, they don't have a country. They are here to stay for the coming 5, 6, 7, 10 years until there is a country for them. It's a fact. Many of us who have left their countries, they left for economic reasons. We can't go back. It is a fact of life. We are staying here. So for both for us and for the locals, we need to find a formula to work the facts. Thank you very much for that question, because to be very frank with you, the majority of those who have been hit very hard are Muslims. And we hope that the South African Muslims will get more solidarity with their cause and with their situation. One of the three things that we can do, one of them is that, please, if you are doing any philanthropic work, let us in the coming few years make it visible to everyone. Allah knows best. We know you are doing it for Allah, but also we need that the people of this country see it, so that they see how much we give. This is one thing. The second is, please, let us work together. We are all one. We know we are expatriates, but we are brothers. We are brothers. This is the second message. The third message is we needed to use the media for our benefit. The media in this country is always negative towards Muslims. There is xenophobia. When a Muslim does something, everyone wrong, everyone talks about it. But when we spend millions in charity in this country, no one speaks about it. We need the Muslim community to work together and make those things available to everyone else.
صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما. 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 صلوا عليه